Hi everyone, today we have Chris Weber from the University of British Columbia here to share some great information with us about UBC. So Chris, welcome. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. All right, hello everyone. My name's Chris Weber. I'm regionally based in the northeast of the US in New York City, but I'm probably your most local contact, your closest time zone. So feel free to email me. My email's right there. And yes, let's get started talking about University of British Columbia. UBC has this really unique balance of academic excellence, ideal location, and active learning. And those are the three things I'm going to talk about today. And when we talk about academic excellence, that can be a really tough one to quantify and explain because sure, I could tell you we're ranked top 20 in all these disciplines or top 40 in the world. I'm less interested in that. I'm more interested in this ranking. We're number one in the world for taking urgent action to combat climate change. I like that because it tells you a little bit about our morals and our principles, like what we focus on. And it tells you that we're taking action. We're not just teaching from a distance. So we're really getting our students involved in that. And while I have some statistics, this is the last one, I promise. We are the most international university in North America with over 18,000 international undergraduate students from over 160 different countries. So this multicultural diversity and sustainability that I talked about in the last two slides, that's just part of our DNA. You can't get away from those two things at UBC. So with that in mind, this sort of these statistics, this academic excellence, let's talk about the location. And the first question you're probably going to have to think about is, why Canada? And there's a few reasons international students like to choose Canada. It could be that we're number one in the world for quality of life. So it's a nice, happy, healthy, very welcoming country to live in. We really prioritize mental health and physical health and safety. It could be that Canada is one of the top 3 countries in the world for university academic excellence. Our government invests more in higher education than almost any other country in the world, which actually brings the cost quite a bit down. And then finally, if you graduate from a Canadian university, you get a 3-year work permit where you can stay in the country, use those connections you've made to really start a career. So by the time you move back, you have a really strong resume to bring with you. So if you've been to Canada, that's awesome. If you've been to British Columbia, you know that we have some beautiful nature, but also really great city life. Let's talk a little bit about what British Columbia is like, what UBC is like. We have 2 campuses that have very different experiences. We have a large campus and a mid-sized campus in very different places, but the degree is exactly the same. It just says University of British Columbia. So it's up to you to find the right fit. They're both in the west of Canada, right over there. If you're familiar with Seattle, Portland, where our Vancouver campus is about a 2-3 hour drive from Seattle. So Vancouver, it's a city of 2.5 million people. So it's large enough that you have everything you'd want from a big city. Half of the adult population of Vancouver was born outside of Canada. So it's a really international place with amazing food. And you can do anything in Vancouver. You have the city life, but then you also have these outdoors adventures you can go on. We have mountains, we have forests, we have beaches. So really get that best of both worlds. Now, an important note about Vancouver is we don't get Canada weather. We get more like Seattle weather. So we have rainy winters and warm summers. It's never oppressively hot and it's never freezing cold. We have a few days of snow in the year, but that's mostly in the mountains where you want it. Now, our campus in Vancouver has 45,000 undergraduate students. That's a big place. Once upon a time, I was a student at UBC's Vancouver campus, and I didn't feel intimidated or overwhelmed by that number. It felt like me and my communities up among all these other communities instead of me in a sea of people. And if you look at that picture, you'll see it's actually ocean on 3 sides and then a forest on the 4th. So campus is its own body. It's a nice, safe place. And downtown Vancouver is 25 minutes by bus. You don't even have to go downtown. About 10 minutes off campus, there's some great stuff too. So that's Vancouver. Now let's talk about the Okanagan. Our Okanagan campus is in the city of Kelowna, which is a 4-hour drive or a 1-hour flight from Vancouver. So you really got to pick a team. You're going to one or the other. You cannot do both. Now, Kelowna is a city in the Okanagan Valley. It's a city of 200,000 people, so much smaller than Vancouver. And it's a bit of a holiday destination for Canadians. You've got some great outdoors activities, but you've also got this huge tech industry. There's about 600 startups in the city. So it's a really forward-thinking place while also being a laid-back vacation destination. And there you do get Canada weather. So you get hot, hot summers, but there are 30 beaches in the area, and you get cold, cold winters, but there's some world-class skiing right off campus. That's pretty great. Now, in a smaller city, we have a smaller campus of about 9,500 undergrads. So that's really mid-size, and that provides you with a more close-knit environment. So you're going to have smaller classes. You can walk from one side of campus to the other in about 15 minutes. It's just all in a little more intimate and pleasant for students who are looking for that smaller feel. Now, whichever campus you choose, housing is guaranteed for first-year students. All of the rooms in our Okanagan campus are single rooms, and about 80% of the rooms in Vancouver are single rooms. So you really get that privacy if you want it. So now I've talked about location. So let's talk a little bit about what you're going to do and how you're going to learn, because we're really passionate about thinking about learning as an experience. So the third thing I said I talk about is active learning. Now, students have all kinds of interests. Everyone's unique and has their own path. So we can, usually at this point, I'd have you pick what you want to talk about, but I'll just go through them quickly. Research then. We are a research institution. We're a research university. So we have research at the undergraduate level. You can do research across programs. You don't have to be stuck in your faculty. So here's an example. This student here on your screen, Leo, he took advantage of, the hundreds of millions of dollars we have in funding, the thousands of projects we have. Leo's from Brazil. He's a physics major on our Okanagan campus, and he got together with a Mexican computer science student, a Spanish engineering student, an Austrian data science student, students from all over the world. And they came up with this project all on their own to study climate change. And the Canadian Space Agency was so impressed that they launched a balloon up into space that's floating above us right now, collecting data on climate change. And this is all based on undergraduate students. They did this all on their own. So that's a possibility. Or if you're not thinking about the academic route as much, you want some professional experience, well, going to Canada, your study permit gives you the right to work. And we're also very big fans of co-op. So if you're not familiar with cooperative education, that's work experience where you alternate a semester of work with a semester of study. So you're never doing too much at the same time. You don't have to juggle exams and essays with going to work. And all co-op positions are paid. They're always relevant to what you're studying. They're mentored by someone in the field. So it's a really great way to get to know what jobs exist. Our students get jobs in all kinds of fields, in government, NGOs, tech, banks, you name it. And the best part of this is co-op students get a job offer within 1 month of graduating 90% of the time. So some of those employers you're working for now could be the ones who want to hire you once you graduate. But maybe this is all very intense. Maybe we're talking about research and work and you just want to have some fun, and that's okay too. If you're athletically inclined, we do have the strongest varsity program in Canada, more titles than anyone else, but we also have the largest intramural sports program in Canada. So all kinds of sports at all levels of competition, whatever makes sense to you. Being active is a big part of a BC lifestyle. And if sports isn't necessarily your thing, that's cool too. We have hundreds of student-run clubs, which could be academic clubs like the Psychology Students Association. They could be cultural clubs like the International Students Association, or just fun ones like the Ski and Snowboard Club or the Mustache Club, or whatever you're interested in, really. Now, if going to Canada isn't international enough, we do have one final opportunity for you guys, which is studying abroad. We have over 200 partner institutions in about 50 different countries. So that's a lot of places to go, a lot of people to meet. And now that we have all this idea of what you can do with active learning and where we are, it should come as no surprise that a UBC degree is internationally recognized. It's a very well-respected degree. In fact, we have about 350,000 alumni spread across the world. So many different countries there where you can meet people. But I think it's an important question to think about what makes a UBC student. So you can figure out if it's a good cultural fit as well. Because you might have a good idea if it's a good fit academically or in terms of location. And when I think about UBC students, there's a lot of them, so it's hard to think about who the typical student is, but I usually come up with 3 words. And these are creative, collaborative, and curious. But I think about them a little differently. I don't think about creative like let's all go paint a painting, but rather, how are you interested in thinking outside the box to solve problems that are important to you, like say climate change? And when I say collaborative, I don't just mean let's do a group project, but Do you want to work with students outside of your field, like Leo from Brazil? Do you want to work with students in all different areas to get together and solve common problems? And when I say curious, it's not just, let's go and do some science experiments to figure out the answer to these questions, but rather you're thinking of attending university. So going to class, that's a given. Writing essays, probably. Taking exams, yeah, pretty likely. What else? How else do you want to get involved? Is it sports? Is it clubs? Is it work? Students who are thinking like that about all the different possibilities, those are the kinds of students that I think about when I think about a typical UBC student. So with all this in mind, if we think it's a good cultural fit as well, let's move on to what you can actually do. And we have over 250 majors. So that's a lot you can study. And with all that, there is a price to pay. So UBC, right now, our tuition's about 39,000 Canadian dollars, which is about 30,000 US. And when you add in your housing, your meals, your textbooks, your skiing, all the stuff you're going to be doing, you get to about 44,000 US all in. Now, that's not nothing. It's pretty good value for money if you compare it to a private institution in the US or some out-of-state schools, but it's still a significant investment. So we do have over $30 million a year we give as scholarships and research grants to international undergraduate students. Some of these awards are entrance awards. These are automatic evaluation. You don't have to do anything extra. If you apply to UBC, you're considered. This could be a one-time thing, maybe $10,000 or $20,000. That's great, but it doesn't solve all your problems. We also have recurring awards every year, about half of your tuition off. These are really great, based solely on the strength of your application. The International Scholars Awards are merit and need based. So these are for super, outstanding students who have some amazing extracurriculars. You have to apply early. Your school has to nominate you. There's a few extra steps, and you can talk about that later. You can email me. We can find it online if you think that's you. So when you're applying to UBC, there's three very simple steps. The first one is to choose your campus and your degree program. So when you're applying, you're not applying to a major specifically, but you're not applying just generally to UBC. You're applying to a Bachelor of Arts degree or a Bachelor of Science, that kind of thing. And you have two choices. So if you're set on, say, engineering, you could put choice one, engineering in Vancouver, choice two, engineering in the Okanagan. One choice on each campus, that's fine. If you think the Okanagan is the campus for you, you could put choice one, management in the Okanagan, choice two, arts in the Okanagan. You could put both choices on the same campus, one on each, fine by me, I don't care. Whatever makes sense to you. And then finally, check those requirements. Make sure you're not throwing away a choice. Because if we say you want to study management or commerce, you need to have pre-calculus. And if you don't have that, you're basically throwing away a choice. So make sure you meet the requirements for your programs of choice, and you're good to go. The next step, apply online. You have until January 15th. That's the really simple one. And then finally, you're submitting all your required documents. Oh, I think my Alexa just piped up.
That's all right. She can answer the questions for you.
All right, that's great. All right, so the last thing is to submit your required documents. You have until March 15th, so you don't have to have your transcript or any test results. My goodness, give me 1 second. All right, we're back. So you don't have to have your SAT results or your transcripts or anything like that by the time you apply. You can do that, apply first and submit those later. So when you're applying, the very basic admission requirements, we're gonna look at your grades, specifically junior and senior year. If you have, say you're applying into science and you only took chemistry or physics in grade 10, well then yeah, we'll look at that grade. But generally we're only looking at the last 2 years of high school. So if you didn't have a great freshman year, that's cool, happens to the best of us. The next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna look at your personal profile. Those are the written answers on your application. So instead of one long essay that's 600 words and you wanna try to fit in everything that could ever be relevant, we ask you 5 or so questions that are about 200-word answers, so you can answer with a bit more focus. Fine arts programs might have a portfolio. The business school has a video interview. There's a few other things like that. And then finally, we do a competitive evaluation. So we're comparing you against all the other students who are applying to your specific degree program. And what we look at, We're looking at breadth of study. So we want to see, are you exploring all of your interests? Are you taking a random, I don't know, Mandarin class just because that happens to interest you? That's great. And actually, in fact, to encourage you to do that, we're going to throw out the lowest grade that's not relevant to what you're studying. So if you want to just go out on a limb and try out Mandarin and it happens to not be your thing at all, that's cool. You don't need Mandarin to be an engineer. We're also going to look at the relevancy. So if you have courses that are relevant to what you want to study, so we're going to look more closely at your physics, your chemistry, and your math if you're applying into engineering. But we're going to look more closely at your social sciences, your humanities, your languages if you're looking into arts. And then finally, rigor. Honors classes, AP classes, that kind of thing, that matters. We want to see, we'll give you some extra weight there, but we want to see where you're challenging yourself, obviously within what's offered at your school. Now, all of this should sort of sum up how UBC does offer that combination of academic excellence, ideal locations, and active learning opportunities. And you can find this online. Always look for that you.ubc.ca. That's our site for prospective undergraduate students. We have campus tours which you can do on your own virtually, or a virtual campus tour led by students where you can ask them questions. We have online sessions. You can email me, chat to us. There's many ways. And if you are on social, well, again, YOUBC is where you want to go, whether it's Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Snapchat, TikTok, Twitter. We have it all. You can actually message us on some of those. So really, that's pretty great. And the final thing is, obviously, this didn't happen this summer, but usually every summer, if you're a sophomore or junior and you're going into junior or senior year, we do have a pre-university program. It lasts 2 weeks. It's called the Future Global Leaders. It's on both of our campuses. You learn with UBC professors. You get to live on campus, feel what it's like, get an idea if it's a good fit for you. And these last 2 weeks, but they last, you can do some of these back to back. So you can do, say, a 2-week program in virtual reality, computer science, and then do a 2-week program in psychology. We have over 30 different academic tracks. So to put a nice little bow on all this, once again, my name is Chris Weber. I'm your most local representative. My email's right there. Thank you very much for your time. And if you are thinking of getting outside of the state, maybe going west, I see no reason why we shouldn't be on your list. So thank you very much.
That was great, Chris. Thank you for that. And I would say, first, I haven't heard of a mustache club before. So that's definitely a first. You're not my first Alexa that's chimed in. And in fact, my dog is making some noises like he wants to do. So no worries. Welcome to virtual world, right?
Yeah, right.
But this was really great. In terms of the two campuses, and I thank you for sort of explaining kind of the distinction between the two of them. When you were a student, were you on the Vancouver campus? Which one were you on?
I was on the Vancouver campus. Now I graduated high school in 2006 and the Okanagan campus started in 2005. So I didn't even know it existed when I was applying. But so now it exists. The main idea is to get the right fit. There are a few differences. So obviously Vancouver's bigger. There are more programs available there, but most subject areas are offered on both. So other than forestry and land and food systems, pretty much everything is on both campuses.
I love that you have the two options like that because they're, I knew that you had the two campuses, but it was great to hear a little bit more and also see the visuals, which were wonderful because I could see some students really liking the larger environment, but others saying, I'd rather have kind of a mid-sized school. And it's nice that they can get both of those things with a UBC education. So I love that. So thank you for sharing that about it. In terms of overlap types of schools, are there schools that you feel like are very similar to UBC that you see applicants from the US looking at both? I've never really been able to grasp, like I have my own ideas a little bit. Are there some?
Absolutely. Yeah. So for our Vancouver campus, University of Washington for sure is a big one. And UC Berkeley, we see a lot. I think those are students who are looking at large public institutions in the Northwest. And for our Okanagan campus, Boulder. We see a lot of students who are interested in those. I think Boulder's bigger, but it's more about, I think, the lifestyle, that sort of smaller city that has the outdoors environment right there at your fingertips.
That's actually really helpful. I wouldn't have thought of Boulder, but I haven't been to the Okinawa campus, so I wouldn't know that. But that's helpful for me to envision kind of the kinds of students that might find that really appealing. So thank you for that. And Berkeley is a school that I've often thought of UBC very similar in Washington. So I totally get those crossovers. This has been wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing. So a lot of really good, you were very succinct and like very on the ball. I love the presentation in general, and the visuals are great too. And I think as someone myself, I've never been to Vancouver, but I've heard from so many people about what a beautiful spot and the shot, the visual of, it's really, I think, showed that. And I think the opportunities for students in terms of all the companies that you mentioned, internship, co-op, that kind of stuff, I think is really incredible. And I agree, if they're going to go west, why not look a little bit further north and check it out? So a lot to offer. And financially, from a pricing standpoint, I think you are actually priced so well because we have, a lot of institutions that are similar in terms of the level of education and the quality of education. Here in the States, you're looking at more like $65,000-$70,000 a year all in. So I think affordability.
I was just saying, for a school that's, if you are going to rank, I think we're top 20 or top 25 in North America, we compare very well to the other schools in that range. But another important fact is most Canadian schools, you can apply FAFSA to, as long as it's a loan, a federal loan. You can't do grants and you can't do state money, but you can do that as well. So that's an option too.
Thanks for mentioning that. That's a really good point I hadn't thought to make, but yeah, that's a really good point that a lot of families don't think about. And I am not anti-student loan. Actually, I feel like a student loan, it starts establishing credit for students. It's a good responsibility, and your education is one of the only loans that you'll take out where the value of it actually increases every day that you have it, versus like a home or a car loan could go down in value, but your education just increases in value. So I think it's a worthwhile thing to take on. So,
Actually,
go ahead.
I just add one more thing on the topic of tuition?
Absolutely.
I forgot to mention this, but if there are any Canadian citizens, anyone who has dual citizenship, your tuition is about 5,000 Canadian dollars. That's about 4,000 US. So if you've never stepped foot in Canada, but one of your parents is Canadian, look into that citizenship because, that makes university really affordable.
That's a really good point. Yeah. And something probably students, sometimes you don't think about those things, but that's a really good recommendation. Well, thank you for this. This has been really helpful. And anyone watching who's interested in learning more, I'm sure the entire UBC staff is very approachable, great at answering questions, but feel free to reach out to Chris and he can direct you to the right people to answer any of the questions that you might have. So thanks again, Chris. I appreciate it.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you.